Discovering a hidden gem, Millionaire CEO unveils an incredible life-changing opportunity for a struggling town, in the heart of Maplewood, where faded dreams linger like the morning mist. A familiar face flickered across television screens, sending waves of excitement and skepticism through the community. Tom, the millionaire CEO who left for the bright lights of the city, was back. His announcement echoed through the town, a revolutionary business venture to breathe life back into the dilapidated streets. This could change everything, Sarah thought, gripping the kitchen counter at her tiny home, where the scent of burnt toast and spilled juice filled the air. At 32, Sarah was a whirlwind. Balancing her two jobs as a waitress at the local diner and a clerk in the corner store while raising her two young children took every ounce of her energy. Reminders of her grandmother's wise words guided her: "Community is wealth, my dear." The weight of it all pressed on her heart. What if Tom could really bring hope back to Maplewood? Her chest tightened at the thought. Could he restore the vibrant traditions her parents had built? As whispers swirled around the town, excitement turned to a mix of hope and doubt. Tom had always been the golden boy, but the years had changed him. Was he truly invested in the community he left behind, or was he just here to cash in on nostalgia? The question gnawed at Sarah's insides, pulling at her heartstrings as she juggled her kids' needs with her own unfulfilled dreams. At the town hall meeting, the air buzzed with anxious energy. Faces glimmering with wonder and skepticism filled every inch of the room. Sarah's heart raced as she stood up, her palms sweaty against her jeans. The moment was here. She had to speak up. "Tom," she called out, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her. "You left us, and now you come back like a knight in shining armor. Why should we believe you?" Gasps and murmurs echoed throughout the gathering. Tom's eyes burned with intensity, absorbing Sarah's pain. This was no longer just a business venture, it was personal. Memories collided: childhood days spent exploring the woods, the laughter shared at the old diner, families coming together at the annual fairs. His lips parted as he searched for words, and the crowd stilled, hanging on each breath. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With a deep breath, Tom stepped forward. "I remember every moment I left behind," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I want to help, not just for the business, but to give us all a shot at a brighter future. I owe it to my roots." His commitment hung in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Tension ebbed and flowed. How could they trust him? Yet, Sarah saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. Maybe, she thought, just maybe, he can bridge the gap between our past and what lies ahead. As the crowd leaned in, her heart fluttered with the possibility of healing old wounds. But the lingering doubts remained. Could Tom's return be more than just a fleeting dream? Would the town embrace this second chance, or would the scars of the past keep them shackled in despair? Sarah felt the storm of uncertainty swirl within her, promising that this moment was just the beginning. In the days following Tom's announcement, Maplewood was a buzz of activity. Sarah could feel the shifts in the air like a gathering storm. People spoke of possibilities during their shifts at the diner, their laughter a little louder, their hopes a little brighter. Ideas flowed like the coffee disappearing from pots on the counter, as patrons shared their dreams for the town. Yet, for Sarah, the excitement was tainted. She reveled in her children's laughter as they played outside in the afternoon sun, but the weight of doubt gnawed at her. Could she dare to hope that Tom's return would mean something real? She watched the kids play tag, their giggles mixing with the rustle of leaves, and a wave of longing washed over her. What if she could provide them more than just the basics? The thought loomed large, gnawing at her heart. Everyone rallied around the idea of Tom's venture, believing it could breathe life into the waning businesses. A new cafe. Maybe a community center. The air crackled with the energy of dreams, yet, Sarah felt detached. She found herself at the town square one evening, the sun dipping low and painting the sky in orange and pink hues, and her heart ached for connection. "Hey, Sarah! You coming to the fundraiser tomorrow?" a friend called out, breaking her from her thoughts. "It's a potluck, and Tom will be there." Sarah smiled weakly, her mind uncertain. "I'll think about it." That night, after tucking her children into bed, she felt the pull of the community that had always been there for her. She pulled out an old photo album filled with memories of happier days, the fairs, the picnics, the laughter echoing off the walls of the diner. In those moments, Sarah had felt rich, surrounded by love and familiarity. Now, that wealth seemed like a distant dream. The next day at the fundraiser, the atmosphere was electric. Families filled the hall, and laughter bubbled up around her as dishes were shared, and old friends greeted one another. Tom arrived, and a hush fell over the crowd. He seemed different, more grounded than the boy who had once left with a suitcase, full of ambition but empty of roots. "Thank you all for being here," he said, his voice steady but soft, eyes sweeping over familiar faces. "This is just the beginning. Together, we can tackle the challenges ahead." Sarah found herself standing at the back, unable to fully engage. Her heart pounded as the crowd erupted in cheers. She struggled with a mix of skepticism and hope as she watched Tom greet an elderly woman, holding her hands tightly, promising he would make things better. A tug of her heart reminded her that this wasn't just about business. It was about people, about a community that had once thrived. Suddenly, she felt a hand on her shoulder. It was her friend, Jessica, beaming. "You've got to meet him, Sarah. Talk to him." Before she could protest, Jessica led her through the crowd. Sarah's stomach fluttered with nerves. But there was a strange sense of anticipation in the air as they approached Tom. "What if he knows I'm just a waitress?" she thought, feeling small among the gathered crowd. But as he turned and locked eyes with her, she saw understanding there. The room began to spin with uncertainty and longing. "Sarah," Tom greeted warmly, and she found herself opening up, words spilling out about memories and dreams. She didn't hold back. "We need more than empty promises, Tom. Are you willing to fight for us?" The intensity of her words hung heavily between them. She could see the gears turning in his mind, and for a moment, everything hung in the balance. But just when he was about to respond, the room erupted in cheers for a new proposal. The distraction sent Sarah's heart racing. Had she lost her chance to find clarity? Would they ever really lay the groundwork for a new future, or would old wounds deepen instead? As the night wore on, uncertainty lingered in her chest. This was only the start of a longer journey, one that could lead to healing or heartbreak. The real question was, would they rise together or fall apart as the shadows of their past faded into the night? The noise of the crowd began to fade away, but the intensity of Sarah's emotions clung tightly to her. She stepped back, trying to gather her thoughts as laughter and talk swirled around her. Tom's voice still echoed in her mind, but their moment had been stolen. Jessica returned to Sarah's side with a plate full of food. "What did he say?" she asked eagerly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Nothing yet," Sarah replied, sadness creeping into her voice. "But I think he understands how much we need this." "Then you need to trust him," Jessica encouraged, setting her plate down on the nearest table. "Just imagine what it could mean for Maplewood. Imagine what it could mean for you and the kids." Sarah's gaze drifted across the room, where parents chatted with their children, and friends reminisced around shared dishes. Hope sparked in her heart, but doubt closed in on her again. "Hope," she whispered to herself. "What if it leads to more heartbreak?" The evening wore on, filled with proposals and discussions that sounded promising. Tom shone under the spotlight, but in Sarah's heart, shadows flickered. Would he remember the promise that came with familiarity, or would he simply chase glory elsewhere? Later, as the crowd began to disperse, Sarah took a deep breath and approached Tom. He had just finished chatting with a group from the Chamber of Commerce when he turned to see her standing there, wrapped in hesitation and resolve. "Sarah, hi." He smiled widely, yet his eyes held something deeper of vulnerability, a flicker of shared history. "I'm glad you stayed." "Tom," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I want to believe in what you're doing, but we need something real. Not just plans and ideas." His smile faded into seriousness. "I know. I feel the weight of that every day." She felt her heart race, hoping he wasn't just giving lip service. "You can't just wave a magic wand, Tom. People here have been hurt before. They're full of hope, but also fear." "I get it, I really do. I can promise you that this isn't just about me," he said, the sincerity deepening his tone. "It's about all of us. I want to help. I want you to be part of it, Sarah. You've seen this town's worth. Together, we can make things happen." Her breath caught in her throat. Did he mean that? Could she allow herself to lean into this possibility of hope, of real change? "Give me a chance," he implored, stepping closer. "I need someone who believes in Maplewood as much as I do. Will you be my partner in this?" She hesitated, feeling the pull of her past and the promise of a brighter future clash in her chest. The weight of her children's future anchored her decision. I need to think about it," she finally said. Tom nodded, disappointment flickering across his face, tempered by understanding. "Take your time. I'll be here." As he walked away, a whirlwind of uncertainty settled over Sarah. Was he truly invested, or was this the first step in another disappointment? She left the fundraiser, the moon high above, reflecting the chaos in her heart. Everything felt different now, the world around her charged with possibility yet layered with trepidation. Days turned into weeks, and Tom's words lingered in her mind like a stubborn melody. The next Saturday, while grocery shopping, Sarah was surprised to find a flyer tucked amid the cereal boxes in the aisle. It was an invitation to a town hall meeting, with Tom slated to share more about his plans. With her heart racing, Sarah reached for the flyer. This was an opportunity to find out if he was serious. But more importantly, could she become a part of something bigger? As she made her way to the checkout, determination surged within her. That evening, she decided. Tomorrow, she would show up. But what would she find? Could she truly embrace this new chapter, or was this just a mirage? As the sun dipped below the horizon, a thought gripped her. What if embracing hope meant risking everything again? What would that feel like? The morning sun cast a warm glow over Maplewood as Sarah prepared for the town hall meeting. She dressed carefully, wanting to present herself as capable and confident, yet her stomach twisted in knots. The thought of seeing Tom again brought back a tide of emotions: fear, hope, desire. She set her kids up with a movie, and after quick hugs, she was off, the flyer clutched tightly in her hand. As she approached the town hall, she could see a crowd gathering outside, their chatter a mix of excitement and skepticism. Each face held a story, a reason to be there, a hope for change. Walking inside, Sarah felt the pulse of the community around her. Familiar faces were everywhere, some she recognized from school events, others just whispers of memories from years past. She took a deep breath, trying to anchor herself to the task ahead. As she scanned the room, her eyes fell on Tom, standing at the front with a confident stance. He was speaking with a group of people, laughter occasionally breaking through as he animatedly gestured. But the moment he turned and caught her gaze, everything else faded. The room blurred around them, it was just the two of them, tethered by the hope of what might come. She maneuvered her way through the crowd, her heart racing. As she got closer, she overheard snippets of his conversation. "I have the vision," he said, genuine enthusiasm lighting his eyes. "But I can't do it alone. We need each other to create the future we all deserve." When he saw her, his smile widened genuinely, but there was a glimmer of nervousness too. "Sarah. I'm glad you came," he breathed, as if he had been waiting for this moment. "Thanks for inviting me," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. I'm curious to hear what you have in mind. He gestured for her to join him, and as they spoke, something clicked. They shared ideas back and forth. Sarah found herself inspired by his passion. But doubts nagged at the edges of her mind. What would this mean for her family? What if it failed? Yet, as Tom painted pictures of community gardens, job training programs, and classes for kids, Sarah felt a spark of excitement. Maybe this time could be different. With the meeting underway, Tom presented his vision. He spoke about reviving local businesses, creating jobs, and reinstating the pride of the community. The audience listened intently, some nodding along, others whispering skeptically. But he carried them with his fire, and they could see the sincerity in his eyes. When it was time for questions, Sarah raised her hand. Tom, how do you plan on involving everyone? The people here are wary. They've seen promises crumble before. A hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to him. Tom met her gaze unwavering, the corners of his mouth turning up. That's a fair question, Sarah. We build trust through transparency and engagement. I want everyone, your neighbors, your families, everyone to have a say in this. We can't move forward unless we do it together. The tension in the room melted slightly, murmurs of agreement following his words, and Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just another empty promise. As the meeting concluded, people approached Tom with questions, ideas, even enthusiasm. But Sarah held back, letting the energy wash over her. She knew she wouldn't be able to stand on the sidelines for long. When she finally stepped forward, she found him glancing her way, waiting, as if he anticipated the next step in their dance. What do you think? He asked, sincerity woven into his expression. I think, there's potential here, she replied, her breath hitching. But it needs us both. The corners of his mouth twitched into a grin, and for a moment, it felt like something had shifted between them, an unspoken agreement, a promise of partnership. As they walked toward the exit together, a sense of possibility filled the air. Yet somewhere in the back of her mind, doubt lurked. Would this be the moment they truly began to build something together, or was the fear of past failures going to overshadow this new venture? As they stepped outside, Sarah inhaled deeply, readying herself for the next challenge ahead. But just as they stepped into the sunlight, a loud crash echoed from the edge of the gathering crowd, and Sarah's heart dropped. What had happened now? People began to scream, and a surge of anxiety rolled through Sarah as she turned toward the source of the noise. Just beyond the crowd, a vendor's cart had toppled over, sending a shower of colorful fruits and vegetables spiraling across the pavement. The vibrant colors transformed into a chaotic mosaic, contrasting sharply with the sudden tension thickening the air. Tom immediately shifted into action. Stay back, Sarah. He called out as he rushed forward, his instinct pulling him toward the panicked vendor trying to gather his scattered goods. She watched him weaving through the throng, a mix of admiration and unease unfurling within her. His urgency revealed a side of him she hadn't seen before, a readiness to help, to bridge the gap in a community momentarily rocked by disruption. As the crowd began to shift uneasily, Sarah felt her heart race. She had always admired his leadership, but witnessing this raw display of compassion ignited something deeper within her. Encouraged by his example, she plunged into the throng, intending to lend a hand as well. Can you help me with these? She called out to a couple nearby. They glanced her way, surprised by the sudden need for unity amidst the frenzy, but they nodded and moved to assist Sarah. Together, they began to gather up the fallen fruits, restoring some semblance of order amidst the chaos. Is everyone okay? Sarah looked around, her concern for the vendor and his startled customers mixing with her own sense of urgency as she worked. Tom was already checking on the vendor, ensuring he was unhurt, and a moment later, she heard laughter rise up from the group. Relief washed over her as she saw Tom helping the vendor up, brushing dirt off his shirt while others enjoyed joking about the strange scene unfolding before them. When the vendor, a grizzled man with kind eyes, finally regained his footing, he turned to Tom with gratitude. You really didn't have to do that, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But thank you. Tom shrugged, his smile radiant. We're community members. We look out for each other. The simple truth of his words sent a shiver through Sarah. She caught Tom's gaze again, and in that moment, their eyes locked. What once felt like fiery possibility now bubbled with shared purpose. Could they actually create the kind of community they envisioned together? Just as Sarah took a step closer, her heart quickening again with hope, the distant sound of sirens interrupted her thoughts. Faint but growing louder, they echoed ominously in the tense air. People began to whisper and glance around nervously, and Sarah's excitement gave way to a gnawing unease. Tom, she murmured, lightly gripping his arm. Do you think something serious happened? Before he could respond, 2 police cars pulled up, their lights flashing as officers jumped out and moved to the edges of the crowd. Murmurs swelled into anxious chatter, and Sarah felt her stomach knot again. Was this going to derail everything they'd begun to build? Would this fear overshadow the spark? Let South just stay close to the front, Tom suggested, his voice steady despite the chaos. If there is something we need to address, we'll be right here. He was right. But as they stood together, a sense of foreboding crept over Sarah. What if this was just the beginning of a struggle they didn't foresee? Would they truly be able to mobilize the town behind them with challenges looming in the distance? Just then, the officer at the front raised a hand, calling for silence. We have some information to share with you about the accident earlier, he announced, his tone firm yet calm. She felt herself leaning in, the tension razor-thin as anticipation swelled in the air. What could this mean for their plans, for the community they were hoping to build? As the officer continued, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was about to take a sharp turn, one that would test not only their resolve but the very fabric of the trust they were trying to weave. Whatever it is, Tom whispered to her, we'll deal with it together. But somewhere deep inside, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what else was lurking in the shadows. The officer's voice broke through Sarah's thoughts, bringing her back into the moment. We're responding to reports of potential issues surrounding the vendor's cart. The area is currently under investigation. The words washed over her like ice water, leaving her cold and uneasy. The crowd shifted again, energy crackling like static as everyone whispered and speculated. What issues? Did someone get hurt? Was there something more sinister at play? Sarah's heart began to race as she imagined the possibilities, each scenario more troubling than the last. Tom kept his arm reassuringly around her waist, pulling her a little closer. She felt the warmth of him next to her, grounding her in the midst of uncertainty. Hey, he said, his voice softer this time, let's just listen. We'll know more soon. As they stood there, their bodies surrounded by restless people, Sarah noticed the worry reading across the vendor's face. He paced, his hands running through his graying hair. She felt a sudden rush of compassion. What if we can help him? She whispered to Tom, her voice barely above the murmurs. Do you think he needs more help? He replied, glancing back at her, uncertainty etched in his eyes. Yeah, I mean, he just lost everything in a flash. Maybe we can do more. The thought ignited a flicker of purpose within her. Before Tom could respond, another voice rose above the crowd, a woman she recognized from the market. We're all in this together. How can we help him? It was like a match igniting dry grass. The energy shifted as other voices chimed in, inspired by her enthusiasm. Right. We should support him. Someone else shouted. Others began clamoring for ways to pitch in, brainstorming everything from a fundraiser to helping him restock his cart. Sarah felt the surge of community spirit lift her heart. This was what she and Tom had envisioned, people coming together, unified in purpose. They really want to help, she said, glancing at Tom. He smiled back, the pride evident on his face. See? They just needed a little spark. The officer, sensing the growing momentum, raised his voice again. If you folks want to assist the vendor, I suggest you do so respectfully. Please don't obstruct our work here. The crowd shifted in agreement, a quiet determination settled over them. One by one, individuals stepped out to talk to the vendor, offering their skills and resources. This unexpected turn emboldened Sarah. "Let us go," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. Together, they approached the vendor, who looked surprised at the sudden outpouring of support. Tom spoke first, "We're here. We want to help however we can." Fingers still trembling, the vendor looked at the two of them, his eyes wide with gratitude. "You don't know how much this means to me. I thought this was going to be the end of my business. Not if we can help it," Sarah chimed in, her voice steady now, brimming with hope. The group formed around the vendor, ideas flowing. It wasn't just about restocking his cart, it was about reviving his spirit. They brainstormed everything from collective shopping trips to spreading the word on social media for community events. As Sarah absorbed the growing enthusiasm, her heart soared. It was more than a simple act of kindness, it was the beginning of an unexpected journey. Together, they might actually turn this chaos into something beautiful, but then, just as the mood began to lift, the sound of another siren wove its way through the air again. An ominous presence returned, and the crowd's energy froze. Sarah's heart sank as she looked at Tom, a silent question hanging between them. What could this new development mean? Was their moment of unity about to fade into another layer of fear? "Stay close," he urged, the resolve in his voice unwavering despite the sudden tension. They couldn't allow uncertainty to triumph. Not now. But in the back of her mind, Sarah wondered, was this just a fleeting moment of hope, or was there a chance to truly build something lasting from the ashes of this chaos? Before Sarah could dwell too long on her fears, a figure stepped forward from the shadows of the crowd. It was Jack, the local business owner known for his willingness to step up in difficult times. His face was set with determination, and as he raised a hand, silence fell upon the gathering. "Everyone, listen." He called out, his voice strong but filled with urgency. "Let us not let fear overshadow what we can do here. We have a chance to help a fellow member of our community, and if we come together, we can make a real difference." Emboldened, the crowd began murmuring in agreement. Sarah could feel the energy shifting again, this time towards something much more powerful than fear. It was the palpable charge of hope, igniting a fire in her chest. She exchanged a glance with Tom, and she could see the same flicker of excitement and resolve mirrored there. "Let us put our heads together and figure this out," Sarah suggested, her voice breaking through the background noise. "What does he need right now? What can we do to help him get back on his feet?" The vendor, still overwhelmed by the support, stepped forward reluctantly. I need supplies. People have been good, but I'm still short on everything. Without my cart, I can't serve the community." And his voice trailed off, a mix of despair and hope pooling in his eyes. "I can help with the social media," shouted one woman from the crowd. "I can rally our neighborhood online to donate spare ingredients and supplies. Can we set up a drop-off center?" "Yes. I can help spread the word." Another voice chimed in. "Let us make some flyers and get them out across town." The ideas flowed like a rushing river, powerful and unyielding. Sarah felt her heart race as she watched people spring to action, each one filled with a sense of purpose and determination. Tom squeezed her hand, and she could hardly contain the joy bubbling inside her. "Look at this, Sarah. Look how they all care." But just as the excitement peaked, the wail of another siren cut through the burst of optimism. This time, it was louder, more insistent. Sarah's stomach dropped. "What now?" she murmured, dread clawing at her chest. Jack turned toward the newcomer, his face showing a mixture of confusion and concern. "We can't let fear dictate our actions," he implored. "Let us keep working. We can't let this moment slip away because of what-ifs." The officer he had been talking to earlier returned, his brow furrowed as he scanned the crowd. "Everyone, please remain calm," he instructed, but his voice was laced with urgency. We need to keep this area clear for the investigation. There's been a report of potential danger nearby. A wave of unease rippled through the crowd. Sarah could feel her heart pounding. What kind of danger? Why couldn't they just have their moment of hope without it being overshadowed by shadowy threats? People, we need to split up. Jack urged, voice steady in the rising anxiety. Some of you go ahead and gather supplies. Others stay and help ease the vendor's worries. Glancing at Tom, Sarah felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. What do we do? She asked, both of them torn between the vendor's plight and the mystery of the threat looming over them. Let us gather supplies first, Tom said, squeezing her hand tighter. Then we can check back to see how he's doing. We can't just leave him, he's counting on us. The crowd members broke into small groups, urgency hanging thick in the air. Sarah felt her heart thrumming in her chest as she grabbed a stack of flyers, ready to mobilize as much support as she could muster. But as she stepped forward, questions swirled in her mind, drowning out the resolve she had felt moments before. What danger was lurking nearby? Could they really make a difference amidst all this uncertainty? As Sarah ventured deeper into the fray, one truth echoed in her mind: the community's strength and support could either be a shield or a shielded weakness, and the answer would reveal itself soon enough. Sarah wove through the crowd, the sound of hushed whispers filling the air like a thick mist. The excitement of planning to help the vendor clashed sharply with the tension from the sirens. Her mind swirled with doubts, but she pushed them aside. If they were going to help, now was the time to act. As she reached the edge of the gathering, she noticed people clustering together. A young woman, who looked no older than 20, was pulling out a whiteboard, ready to jot down ideas. Sarah approached her, feeling a rush of purpose. Hey! I want to help out with the supply collection, Sarah said, urgency coloring her tone. What do you need me to do? Awesome! The young woman exclaimed, her eyes brightening. We're just brainstorming what we should gather. It doesn't need to be fancy, just whatever people can spare. A list of supplies might help. They both started writing in small letters: bread, vegetables, spices. Each word seemed to take on a weight of its own. With every item they jotted down, Sarah felt anticipation building. People are going to come together for this, she said, looking up. The young woman nodded, a look of conviction on her face. Suddenly, Tom's voice broke through the noise. Sarah! He was standing at the edge of a group, pointing to an older man who held a large cardboard box filled with mixed food items. Check that out. We've got someone who's already started. Sarah's heart swelled. She turned back to the whiteboard and wrote donations at the top in bold letters. They were in motion now, gathering supplies and hope from their neighbors, but then, less than a block away, another siren screamed to life, this one piercing through the air like a knife. The knot in Sarah's stomach tightened as murmurs began again, people wondering if they were really safe. Stay focused. The young woman insisted, lifting her chin defiantly. There's a lot we can still do. Sarah took a deep breath. Right. Let us make this happen. She felt the push of adrenaline commitment to their mission driving her forward. They began calling out to people, explaining what they were gathering and inviting them to contribute. As they worked, a warm feeling began to blossom within her, a sense of purpose spreading like sunlight breaking through clouds. Tom joined her side, offering encouragement and helping gather donations. Each contribution, large or small, filled the box until it was overflowing. Just as things seemed to be moving smoothly, another voice called out from the gathered crowd. Is anyone checking on the vendor? What if something happens while we're busy here? The worry in his voice sent a shiver through Sarah. She glanced at Tom, who mirrored her concern. We have to keep someone with him, Sarah insisted, knowing the vendor's anxiety would only grow without support. If we can get a few volunteers, Tom nodded. I'll stay with you. Let us take turns. Before they could put any plan into action, the officer from earlier returned, his face grave. Listen up, folks. We need volunteers to help with the situation nearby. We don't know what we're dealing with, but we need extra eyes. Who can step up? An unsettling silence fell over the crowd. Sarah's heart raced. Everyone had been so unified, but now the specter of danger loomed larger than before. Who would be brave enough to volunteer, and more importantly, did they really understand what they were facing? With a quick exchange of glances, Sarah and Tom knew they couldn't stand by. They had to choose between helping the vendor or confronting the unknown. Should we help with the investigation? Sarah asked Tom, her voice barely above a whisper. His brow furrowed as he hesitated. What if we're putting ourselves in danger? But what if? The air crackled with tension. This wasn't just about food supplies anymore. It was about stepping into darkness to find a light, and in that moment, Sarah understood, they had to choose to fight for their community, no matter what the risks. With a deep breath, she raised her hand, feeling a wave of determination. We're in. But what waited outside could change everything. As Sarah raised her hand, a flicker of relief washed over her. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental. Okay, we'll help, she declared, her voice cutting through the lingering doubts in the air. Tom quickly followed suit, his hand shooting up beside hers. The officer's stern face softened just a bit. Thank you. We need all the eyes we can get. You'll be helping to keep the area secure and look for any signs of trouble. The crowd began to split, some heading in the direction of the vendor, while others remained, contemplating how they could assist with the investigation. A sense of urgency sparked a collective determination. People were moving, their actions underpinned by a deep-seated sense of community. Sarah glanced at Tom as they started forward. Are you sure about this? She asked. Her heart beat rapidly against her chest, but the thrill of doing something significant outweighed her fears. I am, Tom responded, squared his shoulders. We can sort this out together. Don't forget, we're here for each other. They maneuvered through the gathering chaos, their path lit by the flashlights of several officers setting up a perimeter. In this frantic moment, adrenaline propelled them forward. The air held a mix of worry and hope. But as they reached the cordoned-off area, a wave of uncertainty struck Sarah. She caught sight of a few officers speaking to several shocked neighbors. The gravity of the situation became palpable. It wasn't just another community concern, something big was happening. Hey, a voice called behind them. A man in a baseball cap approached, breathless but determined. You two are volunteering, huh? Yeah, Sarah replied, trying to maintain her composure. What is going on? They think it's serious. Someone reported strange behavior at the vendor's place. Maybe something was stolen, maybe worse. The urgency in his voice sent a jolt through her. They joined the growing number of volunteers, anxiety creeping in. Sarah could see various groups formed around the area, some volunteers organizing supplies and others talking to families who had gathered to find out what was happening. It was chaos, but it was chaos with purpose. Suddenly, one officer shouted, anyone who can help, start by speaking with witnesses. A few volunteers jumped forward. Sarah felt a sudden pang in her chest. Talking to witnesses? What if they were scared? What if they didn't want to relive it? You good? Tom asked, sensing her hesitation. Yeah, I don't know how to handle this, Sarah admitted, frustration bubbling inside her. Just be real. Listen to them. With a nod of gratitude, Sarah stepped toward a small group. It was now or never. She approached a middle-aged woman sitting on a nearby bench, tears streaking her face. Can you tell me what you saw? She asked, her voice gentle but firm, hoping to undo some of the worry tightening in the woman's throat. I don't know, the woman started, her hands shaking. There were voices. They were loud. Then suddenly, everything went dark as Sarah listened, her heart sank. The tension in the air was thicker than the storm clouds that rolled above them. Dark secrets loomed just below the surface, and they could feel it. The officer nearby motioned towards Sarah and Tom. "We need information on anything. If we can get some details, we'll know better how to handle this situation." Tom looked at Sarah, a sense of understanding passing between them. They were not just gathering supplies anymore, they were gathering stories, each one a thread weaving their community together, but what they were about to uncover could shake everything. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows that mirrored the uncertainty in Sarah's heart. She felt the weight of the woman's story sit heavily in her chest, knowing that truths were lurking beneath the surface, waiting to rise. Every moment felt like a ticking clock, the air taut with fear yet tinged with hope. She took a deep breath, steadied herself, and turned to Tom. "We need to find a way to support this woman and everyone else," she said, determination stirring within her. "These are real people with real fears. They deserve to feel safe." Tom nodded, his eyes reflecting a shared resolve. "Let us organize a group to talk to more people. We can gather what they've heard, what they've seen," he suggested, his voice steady. "Let us create a space where they feel safe to speak." Together, they approached the small gathering of volunteers. Sarah could see the mix of emotions in their eyes, some were anxious, others hopeful. She felt the fire of community spirit reigniting. "Everyone, we want to hear your stories," she called out. "Let us listen, not just to build safety, but to remind each other that we're not alone." Slowly, people began to open up. Conversations blossomed from the seeds of shared experience. Sarah felt a thread connect them, weaving stories of fear with stories of resilience. A man recounted how he had been at the market that day, how he had seen someone lurking. A young girl shyly spoke of how she felt unsafe walking home from school. Tom moved through the crowd, encouraging those who hesitated to share. As the words flowed, the atmosphere shifted. Fellow citizens felt seen, their fears voiced aloud in a supportive embrace. Sarah smiled at the light of understanding sparking in their eyes. They were more than neighbors, they were a family, and every shared story solidified their bond, but just then, the loud roar of a vehicle interrupted the gathering. A police car pulled up. Tension tightened in the air, and the crowd's chatter hushed. The officer stepped out, his expression serious. "We need to talk to you all about what happened," he announced, fear throbbed through the crowd. "What now?" Sarah whispered to Tom, anxiety creeping in again. They had opened the door to their community, now would it swing back and crush them? The officer began to explain the troubling situation at the vendor's cart, thefts, suspicious activity, and even a report of someone claiming to have seen something that could endanger others. A murmur surged through the crowd, the quirks of fate causing fear to bloom in their minds. But once again, Sarah felt that familiar surge of determination. "If we're going to face this, we need to do it together," she announced, her voice ringing with conviction. The community had rallied together through chaos before, and they could do it again. "Let us gather everything we have, share our observations, and create a plan to support each other. We'll share this information with the police, but we will also make sure we're safe. We have to empower one another." The crowd responded, nods of agreement cascading through them like a wave. Tom took her hand, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they shared. The powerful connection blossoming around them reminded Sarah of why she had felt drawn to this moment. This was their chance to rewrite the narrative for Maplewood. They quickly formed teams and discussed thoughts on security, ways to communicate and resources to create a hotline. Sarah felt the thrum of energy in the room, each person believing in the strength of community, the urgency intertwined seamlessly with hope, sparks igniting a shared commitment to transform their fears into action. They crafted a plan, and as they did, Sarah lifted her chin, looking squarely at Tom. "We can't forget the small things, let us also organize a community watch," she declared, her conviction buoyed by the collective support. "And I think the vendor deserves more than just our words. Let us support him with funds, gather donations, create a fund to help him recover." Cheers erupted throughout the crowd, and she felt a warm glow in her chest. The promise of a new tomorrow shimmered just beyond their fears. "Let us become the embodiment of community," Tom said, his voice strained with emotion. Together, we're stronger. Together, we can rise above this. They knew the road would be long, and there might be more twists ahead. But in that moment, standing shoulder to shoulder with her neighbors, Sarah felt a flicker of belief ignite within her. They were ready to face whatever lay ahead, with her children's laughter echoing in her heart and the solidarity of her community surrounding her. She understood, this was only the beginning. As they stepped into the night, leaving behind the shadows of doubt and fear, a new vision filled them all, the promise of hope, community, and rebirth. They would write a new story for Maplewood, one that spun resilience into their very fabric. This was their moment, a bridge from their past to the future. They would build together a future filled with strength, laughter, and the unwavering spirit of community. Now is the time. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that are changing lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us know you care. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this emotional conclusion, and don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.